was left available. When you try to pinch one roll, the other one sometimes can fall through.
And the funny thing here, if there's Ashe locks, is there is no rush for this Ashe to get locked in either. So G2 giving over the pacing back to Giants from what should have been a fairly straightforward Zyra, Kha'Zix, if you were taking things by the book. If somebody had written a book on 7.2 drafting, that's what you would expect. So, Trick, again, you've got to look at now the jungle. The Kha'Zix now goes over to Memento if he wants it.
Yeah, it seems like G2 really prioritized getting this, you know, your quintessentially strong lane, at least from 7.1. We know Ashe has maybe gone down a little bit in priority, but the Ashe Zyra lane is still something that's hard to deal with. Giants have the option to pick up that Kha'Zix, though, now.
Kha'Zix is Memento's most played jungler. 5 games, 3 wins on it. This is giving over one of these picks that we have said Giants have looked fairly strong on. Likely they're going to take it this rotation alongside and completely not at all.
Okay, so more Iverns. I mean, they just keep coming. So Memento's actually changed things up a little bit. Giants have valued that over the Kha'Zix pick.
Yeah, which I think does have its benefits at particular times. Obviously, Ivern does fairly well in the defensive capability later on. Daisy is, as always, going to be a big portion of the fight.
6-man on the team.
So, bot lanes have been fully locked in if this Bard goes through. We do have the Misfortune available if they wanted it, but this is a large departure from every other pick and ban phase we've seen so far this week.
Yeah, the Maokai is going to be locked in, so Giants have got a pair of trees for themselves now. So a big front line. I mean, I'm wondering what damage they're going to be pulling out for Knight. Honestly, after this is all said and done, they still need to pick their support too. G2, we've seen one Zed today.
Well, PerkZ has been tweeting about how, Zed's being played, there's going to be Zed bans. So G2 rounding out the more influential role in their minds for expect to get this Shen, likely would have been banned as we head into phase 2. You have to think Giants going to ban out that Kha'Zix if it comes to it. I know I've talked about it a lot, but it's actually very surprising for a Kha'Zix to get through phase 1 and not be picked or banned at all.
Yeah.
So likely Giants will take that out of the way as they're going to pinch that pool for G2.
But the mid lane is what G2 is prioritizing banning right now. The Cassiopeia has been removed from the pool. Ball is in Giants' court now. See if they do get rid of the Kha'Zix. If they dare Trick to play it. I doubt it would with the Shen. I mean, that's a deadly combo.
Yeah, it is. We've seen it to great effect. The Ivern as well has been used well with Shen, but they're on opposite sides of the rift in this game, unlike in our last series with Vitality and H2K.
Oh, there's the Rise ban, so they keep throwing mid lanes out the window. G2 have one more left, and then it'll go back Giants' way.
I like this one when you look at it. If that Rise was available for PerkZ, you had a lot of global presence. The Ashe, the Shen, the Rise alongside it. So Giants, will they do what we're kind of expecting, or both teams actually just going to let a jungle pick go further through? Syndra would be the other pick if they didn't want PerkZ to just take that in the first rotation. Of course, Giants don't really have the option of taking the Kha'Zix away in the pick phase if they want it.
Ah, there's the Warwick ban.
Ooh.
Okay,
And
interesting.
That's an interesting one because a lot of the junglers are saying that in scrims and the competitive games, there's not a lot of pressure put on that Warwick. Trick has been playing it a lot in solo queue.
Yep.
I was dropping into a bunch of his games, looking at some of his builds. He has been playing it, but a lot of junglers will also tell you it's not quite as good as an all-round jungle pick as a lot of the other factors.
Yes, indeed. Oh, hovering right now, the last couple of seconds for G2 to lock this one. This is an old Trick special. That's something we saw him use quite a lot in the spring of last year.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Graves in previous splits, seen a couple of games on it in 2017. Still not one of the top tier junglers I would have expected to see, you know, the likes of the Olaf if you weren't looking at the obvious few picks.
Yeah, I mean, no Kha'Zix in the picks or the bans the entire time. I can't remember the last time we've seen that.
It's kind of crazy. I'm very surprised about that, actually. And I've checked the ban phase so many times to make sure I'm not just missing that it was actually banned and we're just ignoring it.
Sometimes it's a head fake. Okay, well, let's check in with what's happening, though. We got the Karma lock in here.
Syndra
a little extra poke. Syndra makes a lot of sense. I mean, but a lot of the damage is going to be on Knight when he picks this, so here it goes.
So Syndra comes through. You likely wouldn't go towards the Zed in this game with Maokai and Ivern, so now PerkZ has to find himself something a little different. With Jace banned out as well, Ryze banned out, maybe opting towards an Orianna would be one of these scaling mid laners if they wanted it. Doesn't have the most amount of synergy with the rest of the composition, apart from perhaps the Shen in some of the team fighting situations. We're actually going into an unorthodox pool here out of mid lane picks.
Ooh, boy. He's going to lock it. The Ekko. Okay, that one's coming out for this game for PerkZ. So talk me through this G2 comp. We talked about unorthodoxy. What do they want to do here?
Well, honestly, they're bringing damage out of the jungle role with this Graves. They're bringing, you know, some types of an assassin out of the mid lane with perks. Fairly strong side lanes is the big thing here. Shen and the Ekko here typically very good at pushing out on side lanes, being on their own. You've got Ashe, Zyra, great for, you know, disengage in that mid from 1-3-1 setup. Whereas for Giants, this is a lot more towards the threat of stepping forward to a turret. With a Varus, with a Syndra, an Ivern, you can kind of move up, push people away from a tower, and dare them to try and fight you, and it can be fairly difficult, but we know how strong G2 esports are typically. We'll see where the Giants can hold their own.
We'll see if they can indeed. Got themselves a siege comp if they're able to use it. We did see quite a big Ivern in the last game. Definitely seems to be a much more popular champion right now as it's coming up and through the ranks, no longer in Xerxes' pool, as the coaches will shake hands to walk off the stage for game number 1. Giants have a mountain to climb, but if they can be truly Giants, we'll see if they take out G2 esports. If you guys think that can happen, hop on Twitter, go to @LOL esports, tweet out #GIA win. But they've got to face down the reigning champs. #G2 win if you think they're going to take this one nice and easy.
I don't know whether it'll be nice and easy at all on this one. We'll see when we get through the game, because G2 do have a good side lane setup for the mid and late game portions. But we've seen HeaQ's Varus. We've seen it to good effect. My eyes are on him for a lot of these portions where Giants are trying to group.
Yeah, it's something I want to ask you about. When we talk about these support AD carry matchups, the Ashe Zyra for so long was kind of your golden standard, right? What you were expecting to dominate. It's on Zven and Mithy. What are HeaQ and Hustlin going to do against that?
What are HeaQ and Hustlin going to do in a 2v2 setup? Well, there's not really a whole lot of things many people have ever come up with to go up against this in Europe. So honestly, what they need to do, utilize the poke. They've got the Varus, the Karma, very strong in that regard, but the engage, the slows, the damage out of G2's bot lane are difficult to contend with. And you can see G2 already putting the focus down bot side. Everybody is grouped up here. Gonna try to keep Giants at bay.
Cheeky level 1 for G2. Spotted out though, so Hustlin, they back away, the rest of the team. It does give a chance though for Flaxxish and Memento to throw down some deep vision, spotting up in the top. It'll be important to track the junglers this game for sure.
Yeah, it will be important to track the junglers. It's one of the metrics we looked at pretty in depth coming into this series. Most junglers that play against G2 have exceptionally high proximity to their lanes, looking to get deep into their own laners to assist, facilitate, gank, everything, you name it, try and put G2 behind. That is one thing typically Memento has not done for Giants, and I don't see it changing in this game specifically. He's going to go against the trend of what everybody's done with G2. Ivern needs time to farm. We'll see how that works out.
That's true. We've also seen a lot of Iverns taking jungle camps away, but it is an unusual matchup with the Graves there.
And here you can see it on your screen. For Giants, about 40%, just under jungle proximity. Junglers that play against G2 average around 49% jungle proximity. This is a massive difference, and I want to see whether Memento changes this up.
He might indeed do. We'll take a look. You guys can't quite see it on your screen just yet. There it goes. There is something else unusual about this game.
There is. I was waiting to get to this as well.
Why 3 rejuvenation beads? Tell me, Stress.
Because you expect nobody to die in this lane, and expect he's just going to utilize them in his build a little bit later, build towards, and just get the regeneration in lane.
Yeah, okay, well, I guess we'll see if it works out for him, but they are going to trade a few blows. It is a Maokai versus Shen. But, I mean, Expect is the guy who, kind of, if you can call somebody a weak link in the G2 chain, he's it.
Yeah, that's very fair. Also, this actually makes him fairly squishy in straightforward trades. He
like
can
we
back
just saw,
away.
yeah,
Exactly. He can back away, get the health back, and come back to the fight. But when it comes to actually having health to trade right now in this fight, he's a lot lower than you would normally expect.
All right, so we'll
Sorry
see if
for the bad pun. That
happens.
one was unintentional.
Just let it breathe, I guess, for a minute. I mean, you kind of can't avoid it at some point. We want to keep an eye on this mid lane matchup as well, but before we shift off the top lane, normally we talk about it being a wet noodle fight. Well, it may not be the case if Flaxxish can find that opening to attack, and if Memento actually changes it up a little bit once he's got some of those levels, focuses topside, perhaps we start to see if Giants can find a way to crumble G2's armor.
It's interesting with this rejuvenation bead. I mean, Shen we normally see end up going Titanic Hydra, which of course it fits into that Tiamat. I want to see if Expect goes Warmogs. It's not a particularly straightforward item, but obviously it does go into the Warmogs as part of the component, so
makes him tankier.
Keep an eye on it. Not typically a first or second item on Shen. And you can see he's dropping so incredibly
But Trick
low.
is there. And Trick's able to tag in right now. He's got the double buff, so Flaxxish can't really get anything else done. But you're right, Expect is incredibly low. Kind of playing a dangerous game here.
We've seen Expect have trouble into Maokai as well. He actually died as Rumble in the Maokai matchup, and a lot of top laners will tell you in lane that shouldn't necessarily happen. The matchup evens out later on rather than actually in the early laning phase, but nevertheless, TP back into lane. No Magic Mantle, Rejuvenation picks up the potion as well, just picks up everything quickly as he arrives back into lane. And we'll continue to farm.
Checking back in with junglers. Memento's actually gone to try and find a counter jungle opportunity. It has not happened since there's no camps left and available. Is going to, however, spot out Trick, who's coming back down towards that side. Wouldn't be too surprised if they end up shifting and playing around this bottom, because we do have a Mountain Drake on the map.
Well, the only difficulty we really have right now, at least when you look at jungle presence, is that neither of these junglers want to do anything really yet. They're still at level 4. Ivern can have some impact, but it's fairly tricky to get it off. Graves wants to hit 6. Always has been a farming jungler, and that's going to be the same type of thing. So this is where Memento can actually have a fair amount of passivity in this game, like we said we've come to know from him, because he knows Trick's not having an impact for at least another minute or so in this game. So we'll continue to farm up. We'll be able to just play at his own pace to start this one off. But Trick has been farming fairly heavily, does have a level advantage.
Yes, he does, even though he's taking the trip up top. Expect, still trading out, but he has a little bit of magic resist. Mantle added to those rejuvenation beads, and some potions to keep himself healthy. Flax is just pushing in, but it hasn't resulted in a net advantage for him just yet. The other lanes, close to even right now. It does seem like G2 are content to play the waiting game overall.
This build that I expect. I'm looking, we'll see how it plays out later. HeaQ takes a fair amount of damage. We haven't seen too much around bottom lane in this game yet, but of course, level 6 for Ashe Zyra, always going to be potent. Well, always going to be careful of how potent
it's like the whole team, the level 6 is going to be kind of crazy. I mean, it's not just Graves, right? Expect he'll have Stand United available, and he can just bail out of top lane. And, you know, maybe get chunked a little faster than usual until he gets some more items.
Same can be said for PerkZ once he hits... Now he is level 6, so not only is the Ekko good in the side lanes, we didn't mention this in pick and ban, but against Syndra, very good stylistically.
Actually takes a little bit more damage than he's able to dish out, but you're right. I want to see what PerkZ is able to make of this one if he tries to go for those flashy solo plays. Memento has now joined Knight in the mid.
Oh,
Trick's coming around.
Coming through too.
Okay. Oh, he flashes right into him. Oh, Trick, we've seen it before. Knight's going to flash. And that's no first blood. What a close call.
Oh, Trick is only a couple of minions away from 6, but couldn't really get it. You saw flash for flash in mid lane is fairly critical, because Knight now has to play a bit more carefully around PerkZ, who is going to be able to teleport back into this lane, will have his ultimate available, and we don't see a whole lot of Syndra Ekko in the current meta, so those of you that haven't seen the match in a while, a lot of it is to do with that chrono break, the ultimate, of course. As soon as Syndra pops her ult, you can survive through it fairly effectively. That's what makes Ekko particularly strong against it.
So we spend a fair bit of time talking about our top laners, but just seeing how they stack up. I mean, it is kind of middling for both of them, and you're talking about Flaxxish, not necessarily the kind of guy who can punish Expect as hard as some other top laners here in Europe, but right now, Trick is joining him up on top side. Flaxxish has got to walk out of this. He has flash available, but he goes in on a twisted advance, and now he flashes just out of the smoke screen. I don't know if that was the wisest decision, but he makes it out.
Well, plays it fairly riskily, but flashes right at the last moment, was able to get away. That was what Trick was looking for out of the entire thing. Trick did have his ultimate, but didn't have the mana, I believe, was the limiting factor there. So Flaxxish, a little fortunate from that.
Yeah.
The funny thing about this is because now G2 have taken away the one blue buff, they thought, yes, we've denied Ivern's team 2 blue buffs. Turns out Ivern actually took your blue buff at the same time, so Knight gets one too. So everybody's happy, 3 blue buffs at a time. If you can somehow deny Ivern both sets of buffs, which is very, very rare, obviously it is a fair detriment.
Yeah, it was hard to do when he can do Well, I'll wait for it because he's not got smite yet. Never mind.
Oh,
I tricked
is it
myself.
the most troll champion, it's also trolling us
Yeah.
outside of the game as well. I like it.
Yeah, he'll be taking a little bit of time before he gets up to it, for sure. Still a fairly even game, despite a couple of action attempts up top. Trick has been unable to secure himself first blood, and also on mid, he just didn't have that ultimate available. Knight's still down a level versus PerkZ, but the farm has been pretty close on even. And actually, the boots start here for Knight, or the boots first item completion for him is an interesting choice to try and dodge out a little bit more and have that magic pen early.
Yeah, not only is it Magic Pen, as you said, it's a little bit more about being able to move forward in lane, trade, move back away.
Nope.
Memento.
See, he's trolling everybody.
Trick didn't smite. He could have, but was trying to just at least be a little more conservative on having that. But Trick actually opting for the Tracker's Knife here. We don't see it all that much. Seen it once or twice here in Europe. Actually saw it on Ivern in the previous game. Just wanting a little bit more vision control to go with that, so been a fairly hands-off game for both junglers. Trix showed his face in a couple of lanes, but only got summoners for it. Nice little advantages coming from it, but no real gold lead to speak of.
Yeah, and it has been as a result of, it looks like, these jungle choices. I want to ask you particularly, Stress, how does this really affect how the game will go later on? G2 are known as a team that ramp up pretty heavily, and Giants seem to be playing into that.
Well, the ramp-up moment, I think, in this game is going to come a lot from PerkZ pushing and moving all the way through mid lane. That's one of the reasons why Knight is struggling, is because every time PerkZ is moving forward to try and trade, yes, Knight does have a CS lead right now, but you can see how the wave is getting pushed out as soon as PerkZ throws out the Q. That then influences the rest of the map, because if PerkZ disappears off the map, beats Knight across to the fight on the bottom side when Shen's coming in, suddenly G2 have 5 people there. Knight is still stuck mid lane trying to wave clear. That's the danger here for Giants, is that they just aren't quick enough to respond.
It's definitely the case so far. Still, the gold continues to be very even, but PerkZ is pushing Knight out of lane now. So Flaxxish expect dueling it up on the top side, but Trick is once again hovering here. See if Flaxxish is able to get out. He's got no flash this time around. He throws on the Maelstrom. The damage is just not enough, and he knows he's a dead man. Down he goes for first blood.
This time, no flash available for Flaxxish, and he's pushing too far up in the lane, trying to trade as much as he can, and it's a good punish. G2, rather than looking for the bottom lane plays, which is where everybody else seems to be going right now.
Ooh, he got a flash out of that instantly.
G2 have been playing more around the top lane here, and it's normally something that they're not as influenced to do in their games.
Yeah, I mean, there's been almost no attention down bottom for either jungler, but in particular, Trick has been a couple times in mid, but almost other than that, exclusively up top. And they can trust that Zven and Mithy are going to continually shove these waves in, not give Hustlin and HeaQ a chance to do much. It seems to be working out for them.
And we were talking coming into this game about how Memento's jungle style would be. Would he be in the enemy lanes a little bit more? Maybe camp, expect. Maybe they could turn it around. Well, so far, 11 minutes, nearly 12 minutes into this game, Memento has dealt about 100 damage to enemy champions right now. Not being in the lane, of course, hasn't really had that opportunity, so it's been a slow start, as we've come to expect from Memento on the Giants.
They left the Kha'Zix open and took this instead. What is the plan for them if they were trying to look to have this damage? I mean, maybe they just wanted more front line. I'm not sure.
Hey, Daisy.
Hold on.
Daisy's done more damage.
All right, they're on 2v2,
Memento.
but that's not enough. They get blown up right there, so Trick just punishes him. Meanwhile, PerkZ is going in, and he's even got the insurance policy of a stand united as he chrono breaks back. Expect does not land the taunt. Heavy investment into mid, but G2 walk away empty-handed there.
That was a little messy from G2. They still were picking up the kill. Hang on, Mithy did just get caught.
A lot of chunk damage. Hustlin and HeaQ were able to put it on, but Zven deterred any further. So all of a sudden, all over the map, we're starting to see things happening, but only one kill to show for it all.
They did, however, get both of Knight's summoners in exchange for Expect's ultimate and his flash, but the fact that Flaxxish had died early, didn't TP back up to the lane, actually means Flaxxish can't quite punish on the top side in enough time. And Trick is just going to solo down the Drake. I want to go all the way back to what you were talking about with Kha'Zix in the pick and ban phase, in the sense that this is what this can lead to. Kha'Zix would have basically done the same thing as Graves in this situation, but I don't mind Giants picking the Ivern, but just the damage coming from this Graves, from Trick, from Mithy, finding their target, pick up the kill. Then mid lane, PerkZ didn't get the damage from the Chrono Break. Expect is fairly, not weak right now, but still susceptible to Knight's damage, so has to play that a little more carefully. So it didn't quite go as much in G2's way as they would like, but still, a net gain over to G2.
Yeah, right now, it seems like they play this game out fairly controlled, and then they just sense an opening, and without any hesitation, they just dive in, but it just hasn't really done anything for them lately. They haven't really been punished for it, but they did have to burn a couple summoners, so, you know, PerkZ had his ultimate used. It's already back up again, but Expect doesn't have his flash available.
There's been a lot of discussion recently, Pyra, about Flaxxish and his top lane prowess. And
yeah.
I think a lot of people have some fairly justified concerns over some areas of Flaxxish play. The one thing that I think he has been fairly decent on in previous games is his teleports into team fights, specifically on Maokai. He's had a couple that have actually been fairly impressive, so that's one area that I think Giants can use to kind of fight back into this. With the Maokai, with Daisy coming from Ivern, they've got decent fighting potential. You can see Daisy even pushing Zven and Mithy, the best bot lane in Europe, back away from their tower. Go get him, Daisy.
This is what you're talking about in the pick and ban. What Giants want to do is siege up right now and force G2 to kind of back off, because there is this big front line of Mementos, Ivern, and Daisy. And Mithy just keeps tanking these piercing arrows.
A lot of damage. A lot of damage come from those piercing arrows. You can see HeaQ actually opting for the tier build. We've seen all the variations of Varus today. We have seen Blade of the Ruin King. We've seen the Ghostblade Edge of Night build. We've seen the QSS first item into doing no damage build out of Steelback as well. And this is the last one where you can get tier. Oh, people are kind of murmuring.
Sounds like there's different like tiers of the
So
builds.
this one, you get more mana, you can poke people back. You still build a fair amount of lethality, so you get the good armor penetration that got buffed on 7.2. But there are these plethora of builds, HeaQ wanting to be able to throw out a whole load of those piercing arrows, get a lot of damage down, and then when it converts, start adding that onto your auto attacks as well.
Kind of reminiscent of the the old Legolas build, back when there were different items. I mean, some of the same core, but yeah, the tier's stacking it up right now, and as he had completed the cheaper item, first HeaQ, was able to put out a little more damage, but G2 are heavily moving down now towards this bottom side. And there's a teleport for Expect and a Stand United. Mithy spotted out. They're going to be able to finish this tower. They just showed some muscle and got it. And that's first tower blood.
And PerkZ moved down through the jungle first. Will get caught out for now. Shen's coming in already.
Stand United.
No Giants don't want this fight.
No, they don't. Knight's isolated right now. There goes the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. It nails him in the face. Insult to injury. And Mithy picks up the kill.
There was a moment when Knight knew he'd made a mistake, and it was when he showed himself out of the bush to PerkZ, realizing he had nothing more to do. And Giants, they're going to lose their mid tower here. G2 should be able to push this one through fairly effectively on this next wave.
Daisy, unfortunately, not able to do enough to hold the line here, and the minion wave may be chunked a little bit, but G2 are able to get enough damage out to finish the tower, so they take bottom, they rotate mid. Flaxxish, meanwhile, is desperately trying to equalize up top, but he can't get the job done.
And the pacing of that fight, how quickly it ended, meant that Flaxxish never had a moment to teleport into the fight. He doesn't even have one completed item, and this fight was already done before it ever started. You can see how deep Flaxxish is, waiting for the TP. They already know Knight can't escape this.
You can see Memento started to go in. It was like, wait, nope, 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 and Knight did not get the memo.
Memento threw out the redemption to just be like, maybe that'll help a little-ish?
I don't think it was very redeeming, to be honest. Unfortunately for Giants, they just haven't been able to get much going right now, and as it stands, the gold lead's starting to roll a little bit out of control thanks to those towers. It is a 4,000 lead for G2. On top of that, you've compounded with a Mountain Drake, and it'll just kind of keep going. G2 are controlling this game, and they're playing what looks like a very comfortable mid game.
Yeah, very comfortable. Trick recalling on 2k gold, comfortable. With a 1,500 gold lead over his opponent, comfortable. And one of the other things we were tracking coming into this series this week was how Giants performed in different situations. You can see in wins, they have a steady increase on the green line to where they kind of gradually win the game. Unfortunately for Giants, when they're losing, it gets worse and gets worse fast. You can see typically they lose games not even at around that 35-minute mark. They lose heavily very quickly when they start going down, and that's one thing we have to watch out for on this series as well.
Yeah, this is only game number 1, but it's starting starting to look like the latter column. If they can pull something out, we'll see, but they've got a tough task ahead of them. Everybody knows when you're going up against G2 eSports, it's not going to be easy. But Giants have not been able to offer a whole lot of resistance right now. No objectives on the map to speak of. No kills in their pocket just yet. Flaxxish on sidewave duty. What can they really get done?
Well, it's interesting about talking about when you go up against G2, because I think G2 have been given a run for their money by a couple of teams already. We of course, saw Misfits and Fnatic to some extent looking decent in their series in the odd game. So, yeah. I mean, G2 don't look like the unstoppable force that they have before, but still look very strong compared to the field. I do just wonder, though, now that they're showing us a little bit different setups from this draft, this 1-3-1 style on the side lanes, which is what we found ourselves in now. Ekko on the top side, Shen on the bottom side. This is a little scary that G2 is starting to expand the playbook once again, because now you never really know what to prepare for in the series.
Yes, indeed. Giants, hard to tell if they were really taken by surprise too much, but trying to make something work. The Syndra hasn't been able to get up to speed just yet, with the Morellonomicon only the item completed as the boot started happen. Trying to use Daisy to siege up on mid, but Zven is there to really stop it. Seems like a lot of this game might end up falling to HeaQ. See if he's able to get enough done. I mean, he has the front line.
And that happened in the Fnatic series as well. When you look at it, like HeaQ hitting the Chains of Corruption on, you know, on Reckless a couple of times where really they should have been flashed, but HeaQ, good precision on those, really gave Giants an edge. The problem is right now, I don't know whether that edge is quite enough, because you've got the Shen shield coming through. It's difficult enough to kill an Ekko as it is. So much crowd control comes from Zven and Mithy, and then Trick just bursts you down. That unless Flaxxish and Memento are providing a solid front line for HeaQ and Knight, I think the time is already starting to run out for Giants on this setup. Syndra just doesn't really have enough to kill the Ekko or the Shen right now. And there's a more Malmortius on Trick too. Yeah,
it seems like Giants have kind of let this happen a little bit, though. The proactivity, and part of it's built into the comp, right? You need Memento to take some time to scale up, but as you see, I mean, yeah, he's not done a whole lot of damage, and I'm wondering how much of that's Daisy, to be honest.
Probably like 800 of that 925 damage is all from Daisy.
The rest is like 2 auto attacks. one root caller.
Yeah.
All right.
You can see Expect bringing the damage as well. Getting those rejuvenation beats, we can make it into Tiamat early.
It worked. I mean, he got really low really early, but I mean, he could count on his buddy Trick.
He hasn't been punished. If you had a camp-heavy jungler in the top side, unlike an Ivern, somebody that can jump right in and just obliterate a squishy Shen, which is a weird thing to ever say, maybe that could have been punished, but Expect gets away with it and is easily in a comfortable position. Like, this is a spot that he can afford to be in.
Yeah, they can just rotate up top and take this. And this is what we were talking about, though. If there is a weak point on G2's squad, it is Expect. He went for a risky starting build, but Giants just didn't have the comp to do anything about it, and they didn't really make too much of an effort either. It was Trick who was up top. Memento was just jungling.
Yeah, Trick came up, got the, you know, the flash, then ended up getting the kill from the top side.
I mean, they're playing from an old playbook, it seems. G2 are just several steps ahead. This is the quality difference in these two teams, it seems. It's only game 1, though. Things can change. Ah, the arrow.
Oh, no!
Oh, he flashed in place.
They can't punish, but when you flash in line with the arrow,
it feels bad, man. Like, let's, you know, that's not fun.
They still can't punish it, but get the flash, so,
yeah.
I mean,
Cooldown win. All right, there's an Infernal Dragon on the map, by the way. I'm wondering if Giants are going to try to fight for this one, because they pretty much backed off and given the Mountain and the Air Drake away. I mean, it's kind of, you know, like, they're not as important. Well, the Cloud Buff's not as important, but still.
They're fairly focused on the mid lane now. With 4 people in mid, you can see G2 have actually brought Ekko over, because Ekko has, like, a little bit safer wave clear using the Time Winder, throwing it out. That does, however, leave a big target on Zven's back as he's recalling out now. This is smart of Zven to have pushed it and recall as soon as he is in the situation. You can see 2k gold on Ekko, 1600 gold on Zven. So that was a moment where G2 had to, on the fly, change up who was wave clearing, who was pushing on the side lane. But I kind of expect them to revert back to normal right now.
Right. Okay, so we'll see how it goes down. I mean, a lot of vision for G2 in this river as well. It's going to be hard for Giants to kind of push out and take any territory. They've had to kind of stick a lot of it with inside their own jungle, in all honesty. But they are getting some clears off. Still fixated on this mid lane, trying their hardest to siege into it, but G2 have just not given them anything this game.
Yeah, they really haven't. I mean, even Zven hard pushing top lane out so that the minions couldn't kill top tower. You can see as PerkZ passes the top tower now, it's on very little health. But Giants were not able to take it down. Now Zven in mid lane. Oh, HeaQ missed it. Oh, that's
arrow
bad.
For the other. Flash forward, and Trick has the Stand United on him. He's locked up for just a second, and so is Expect. They're going all in for him right now. If they can melt through the shields, they just can't do it. And the rest of Giants caught in a massive Stranglethorns. G2 smelled blood, and they went for it for a big victory in this fight. 3-0, and it's not done yet. Flaxxish is down. PerkZ picks him up, just like that. G2 eSports with a big lead, more than they had before.
This has happened time and time again for G2, where they catch their opponents between 20 and 25 minutes, and it's an easily secured Baron. They have done this 13 times. They have taken Baron and only given away 2 to their enemies in their entire progress this spring split. And again, that makes 14. Beautiful turnaround on the fight from Expect and the rest of G2 from what started out looking bad for Giants. HeaQ didn't quite connect, takes so much damage. There's a turning point here, though, where Giants look to be able to fight this. Expect got pushed back. But as Expect comes forward into the fight, it's a multi-person taunt, multi-person Stranglethorn. Zven is untouched, landing so much damage, and the rest of this fight comes from the flash from Expect. Watch for it, taunt flash, pixel perfect on the Maokai, gets another kill, gets them the Baron, and that's going to get them game 1 in about 5 minutes.
It's a bold prediction, but I don't think it's as bold as it might seem. G2, I mean, they reacted quickly. There was so much damage dumped onto Trick, but he absorbed it all. The Mob Malmortius was really paying for itself in that fight, and Giants just didn't have enough damage. Memento wasn't even around for most of that fight.
Zero on that counter. And, man, G2 have done this so many times. And with an Infernal Drake coming up in 10 seconds, they've got a 1-3-1 setup with the Baron buff. Both TPs available. Giants, their summoners are just completely on cooldown all across the board. They have no fighting potential at the same time, and they're going to get pushed in every single lane.
Yeah, it was beautiful coordination from G2. The multi-taunt, the multi-Stranglethorns. It wasn't the only thing that won them the fight, but I mean, it was a big part of it. And Trick is able to solo out the Infernal Dragon. So G2, they've got the Baron, they've got an epic gold lead, 7 kills to 0. And at this point, they've got Earth, Wind, and Fire and Cloud Drake, so they're disco dancing.
I think Giants are going to remember this game, if I'm honest. As PerkZ trying to push down that bottom lane. Now you can see Expectors joined in the mid lane as well. A little bit slower, but keep in mind they have Ashe, they have Graves to push down. It's such a big lead.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot Giants can do from this. Seems like the rest of the game plan might just be starting to think about what they can do for game number 2. Remember, best of 3, you can always turn things around.
Here's the arrow coming.
Oh boy, yeah, I think he's sensing it this time. When you get nailed by enough, it's like a spidey sense, you kind of start to learn. Is that how it works?
I suppose, oh, there it goes.
Ah, he dodged it.
Trying to be a little flashy on this one. That was ambitious.
That's okay, Sven's going to have that back up soon enough. Okay, so it is G2 that are sieging. They don't need to do the 1-3-1 just yet because they've got enough powerful fighting that they can just keep on pushing. And even though Expect is tanking the tower here, he's barely taking any damage for his trouble. The shield's not even melted through. There it goes. Not got the tower just yet, but they should be.
But look at bot. Yeah. That's where the key damage is being done because PerkZ with a Lich Bane is already pushing through and has taken the inhibitor tower on the bottom lane. Just cracking the base with the last few moments of this Baron buff, and HeaQ cracking through his health bar as well.
Yeah, G2 are just giving no quarter whatsoever right now. The easiest tower for them to take would be to move up towards the top side, which is what they're sending 3 to, still keeping Zven a little bit hung back for a moment, although he's going to be joining them soon enough, it looks. And PerkZ just keeps on pressuring bottom, keeping Knight's attention down here. They're just dragging them across the map.
And this is something we hadn't really contemplated too much on. We thought jungle picks may have stayed very much the same. With the Rengar, we've seen a lot of the Kha'Zix. The lethality buffs will help junglers like Graves as well. You can see Edge of Night comes through, the efficiency on that item, not only on lethality, but remember the cooldown on that went down to 30 seconds. That's a 30-second kind of like Banshee's active that you can just have all the time. So
as long as you remember to hit it before you go into a fight.
I
was playing with it a little bit earlier this week, and I found that out the hard way a couple of times.
It's not like a spell shield. It's not the same thing.
Once you pop it. But yeah, I mean, Trick is you could see he was actually fairly tanky even sitting on just the Maw of Malmortius and his jungle item. So now he's going to be a little harder to kill from the magic damage department. And to be honest, Giants didn't have the most damage to begin with. It was pretty much all on Knight and HeaQ.
Yeah, it has been fairly reliant. And Daisy.
I don't want to forget about Daisy.
I mean, HeaQ right now, you can see Tear of the Goddess.
There we go, PerkZ.
Right
jumping
now,
out.
That tier is barely even at 500 stacks at 30 minutes into the game. That is a slow tier
that's not
build.
good.
A lot of that is because HeaQ, obviously prioritizing the lethality items, the Ghost Blade, the Edge of Night, doesn't give you the Muramana's or the Mana Mune's auto attack to stack function. So it is a slower stack on that one. So can't really say too much more on that, but the vision control right now from G2 behind Giants could be the turning point. Remember, double TP on the G2 lineup.
I mean, yeah, and then a third when you count Shen also being able to stand united onto somebody. They've got flank wards. I mean, they're totally in control of this game, and Knight is just getting batted down. PerkZ is gonna do it in style. He snaps back all the way to his own minions.
PerkZ is adamant on keeping this to be a perfect game for G2 right now. Snaps back, gets all the health back. 8 kills to 0, 6 towers to 0, 3 barons.
Make it 7.
3 dragons to 0.
They got everything right now. Giants have just been unable to find a single objective this game. G2, if there was any doubt that they were the dominant power in their group, well, this game should definitely dispel that right now. They'll have to finish off Giants, but they are marching in for the win in game number 1. Daisy on the front line, Memento's there, the Chains of Corruption were on. Maybe there's a chance here for Giants to be able to find something, but meanwhile, up top, PerkZ is still having his way.
He's pushing through still, expect towards Memento.
Flaxxish, he's gonna be on Trick right now, but Trick is still tanking through this, and Expect is gonna be backing away, just turns on to Flaxxish, and even though it's a Maokai, he's gone down. That's one half the front line of Giants.
PerkZ got the
PerkZ is still there.
He's just cutting around the entire base. G2 are pushing in with full force.
9 kills to 0. They just keep stacking this gold lead up. They're going to be able to take down the last inhibitor, and the Giants' resistance is just crumbling here. Flashing Mithy is going to stay alive. The shield is on him. Expect keeps him going.
That might be the shield that holds a perfect game for G2. At this point, with 3 inhibitors down, it's recall. Look to set up either the win or the Baron. We'll see what G2 end up doing. They are in a dominant position.
Expect backs, buys a GA, no problem. You know, they've got money to spare at this point. Nearly everything on the map. 9 towers, all the dragons, as you said, the Baron. There's going to be another Infernal in 20 seconds if they really think they need it.
It's been nearly a year, Pyra, since our last perfect game, which was Vitality versus Splice Week 9 Spring Split last year.
Oh man,
Vitality would be the winners of that. And my, how things have changed since then.
Very different EU LCS for sure.
TP into the base. PerkZ wants to end it.
They're going to start Baron anyways.
Flashy.
I mean, Flaxxish is there to try and stop him, so he's out.
But it pulls the rest of Giants away from the Baron pick.
All right.
HeaQ pops his Ghost Blade. It's all or nothing.
Okay, here we go. Memento's going in. He tried for the steal, but it just didn't happen right now. G2 have so much damage they can keep fighting. It's a teleport in, and PerkZ is bringing up the rear to try and collapse on Giants. This very well will be the final fight.
Knight.
Trick just blows up Knight now, and PerkZ is in the back, just grabbing everybody's attention. Memento, Daisy, Flaxxish are all there. The Winions are marching into the base. Flaxxish has to flash the wall, and Trick is hunting for him right now.
TP again into the base. This time it's Expect walking the minions through, giving them the Baron buff. They've done it!
They've got
G2!
A perfect victory at 33-15. G2 eSports cleaning up. And they're 1-0 on the series.
We haven't seen dominance like that, even out of G2 in a while, Pyra.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they had for breakfast this morning, but holy moly, 12-0. All the towers in the game. I mean, Giants, from the get-go, I think they had some opportunities, but it just seemed like they fired on any of them.
Yeah, I mean, Giants right now, we were talking about, could they exploit top lane? What would Memento do in the jungle? Really, they just did not do a lot. And
yeah.
It just has no real option afterwards. So,
it's rough.
I mean
it's rough.
Was integral where he needed to be. They had one catch in the jungle that started the snowball off, got one up in the top as well. And from there, really, just Giants couldn't combat anything.
Yeah, it was so tough to see. And like the bottom lane, they could just leave alone because G2 had such a strong one comparatively. But you know, that was it. Perfect game. For more on that one, we're going to send it over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Pyra. Of course, kind of maybe not quite as expected. I don't think anyone expected a precisely perfect game coming in for G2, but I want to turn our attention first to the pick and ban phase. Now, all day and pretty much all week, we've been seeing Ivern be this massive pick, this huge, this powerful impact. Why in this game, at least to me, did it feel like it didn't do anything? What was the difference here?
I think it really came down to, well, Graves was like a really smart pick against it for one. It's buffed on this patch with lethality, so I was very happy to see Trick bring that out. And then they took Shen and they played a split push mid with it. And that's really, really strong against Ivern. Poke and split push. That's how you beat Ivern comps, and G2 played it excellently.
Also, even though Ivern may be like a really strong pick, it doesn't really matter if the enemy's like 10k ahead at 20 minutes because they win every lane. So.
Great analysis. Definitely, I agree 100%. No, but it's like you have like 3 losing lanes. So Ivern obviously can't really do a whole lot. He's not going to be the big skirmish jungler who's going to try and snowball that lane specifically. The 1-3-1 was already highlighted. I also think for Giants specifically, like Memento is your carry. Like, yes, he's a jungler, but he's your carry. And if you put him on Ivern, he's enabling other people to carry. But HeaQ or Knight have not been good enough to like consistently show they can be superstars or carries, and especially not against G2. So it's kind of like, I feel like Memento has to play like Kha'Zix and these kind of picks where he can snowball himself and not snowball someone else.
Well, we did see kind of in the early game exactly the G2 comp functioning, picking members off, fully utilizing that advantage and starting the snowball. As we look back on one of our replays here, as we see, Syndra just getting completely and utterly collapsed on. This feels like the start of the G2 snowball.
I mean, this was something the guys on the desk talked a lot about during the game, how G2 are pushing 3 lanes and they can just like do whatever they want on the map. Because like, is there anything Giants can do in this situation during the laning phase against what G2 has?
Honestly, no, because as long as Syndra has no summoners and they have Ekko and Shen, it should be impossible to play that champion, to be honest. And like she tried to move to try to help bot lane, can't do that. She tries to stay in lane, she's going to get doped by Ekko. It's a very difficult position to be in as a Syndra. And I think G2 just played it very well.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, once again, perfect game, which I would say not quite perfect execution, probably 1 or 2 small mistakes, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really get cleaner than that when it comes to a game of League of Legends.
Add in the negative right there. I think we're just pretty happy about this game.
I think, yeah,
like,
G2.
I wish we had more we could add right here, but like we were sitting during the game and also discussing this, being like, so the draft, like a counter pick like completely, 3 losing lanes with an Ivern. Giants obviously don't have the strongest lanes already in the first place, and then it's like, this game should actually just be a completely one-sided stomp, and there really won't be a whole lot to highlight, because it's just like, there's nothing Giants can do.
Well, luckily we have at least one more highlight to come in, Deficio. So as we take a look at this replay, you can see Giants' desperate attempt to start a team fight here, and as so often is the case against a Shen, doesn't quite work out for them.
Yeah, the only thing we were kind of yelling about here was Trick almost dying and ruining perfect game. Because
it was very close.
All right, we gotta look at Daisy and Ivern, because Ivern actually did 0 damage in this fight. Didn't hit anyone. Daisy didn't
Daisy
even get
just goes and dies.
Yeah. There it is. 0 damage. 0 damage.
All right, I mean, devastating team fight to lose, and of course, this is the point where the snowball was in full effect. This is the point where, I mean, hope was dead for Giants, but they have another game. This is a best-of-3 series. They have another chance to come back. I mean, what has to change here? Is it just Memento on that Kha'Zix? What do we expect from Giants? And what can they do if there's anything left for them to do in this series to bring it back?
I mean, I think you really do want to get Memento on the Kha'Zix and hope that he can at least like make plays early game. Because on Ivern, it's really difficult too. I think if you just like don't contest G2 early game, and they're just going to roll over you.
I think now's a difficult point because on blue side they could have banned Ivern and gone for that early game pressure,
Yep.
but how do they do that now? If they take Ivern away, well, G2 has an answer. If they don't take Ivern away, it's so difficult to like play against Ivern if you're not a good team in mid and late game because one mistake and the Ivern takes over. So it's looking difficult for Giants now.
Is there a chance they throw the big curveball and like you leave some of these OPs up and you try and trade maybe one for one? Because something we haven't seen yet on red side is people actually like only banning one OP and like leaving two, trading them one for one. Also because blue side can then last ban one of the OPs and then force you to ban the other one. But like, is there anything there Giants can do to like throw a curveball? Are we looking at cheesy picks? Anything?
I think there's a possibility that maybe they will try to just ban Ivern instead and leave maybe like two OPs open. Maybe it's better that way because they can like get a more aggressive early game jungler, which I think is what they need. But I still think if they do this, it won't be great for drafts.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, devastating to see. At the end of the day, we'll have to see if Giants have anything else in the pot because we're going to make like Jin and curtain call on this captive audience. But when we come back, the second game between Giants and G2.
Hey, Daisy.
Hold on.
Daisy's done more damage.
All right, they're on
Memento.
2v2, but that's not
Whoa.
enough. They get blown up right there. So is expect. They're going
this is
all
good.
in for him right now. If they can melt through the shields, they just can't do it. And the rest of Giants caught in a massive stranglethorn. G2 smelled blood, and they went for it for a big victory in this fight.
Fucking the minions through, giving them the Baron buff. They've done it.
They've done it.
G2.
A perfect victory at 33-15. G2 Esports cleaning up